can be mortal.
Welcome back. Mere Mortal Knights, welcome back. It is the dawn of the robots today in Musings. We here at the Mere Mortals like to have conversations, deep philosophical thoughts with a lighthearted touch. I will try and keep it with a bit of a lighthearted touch today, but it might get pretty deep, might get in the weeds. I've got a few numbers as usual. It'll be Juan talking straight out his ass. We'll see how close we get to reality. You've got Juan on this side.
And Karen here live.
We come live at 9 a.m. usually, the 16th of February. 2025. And this particular topic, so Dawn of the Robots, I made a comment slightly offhand, but it still was to my, I guess, idea and thoughts. Was the last episode or the episode before?
It was. I can't remember if it was in the actual episode or if
it was during the episode.
Okay.
Yep,
All right, there we go.
Because Karen, in that particular episode, said, I totally disagree with that comment. And then I said, it was afterwards, I was talking about the Optimus robots and using them for leverage and stuff like that. So this is going to be an interesting one because off the bat, I won't leave people hanging because I messaged this in a couple of places. There is a plot twist to what I'm about to say with the Dawn of the Robots and what's going to happen in the job market in 2026. So I won't keep it hanging. You'll get that before the Boostagram Lounge. I'll reveal that. But I want to set my context just to see if Karen still agrees or disagrees with what's going on.
Because my context for this was, one was saying there's going to be like big changes, 2026. Robots will be a thing.
Correct. So
that was all.
So let me set some context for people at home, because you might be sitting there or you're listening to me and you go, "What the hell does Juan know about AI?" And the answer is very little, very very little. However, I think I went past the crest originally a long time ago of thinking that I knew a lot, and I'm over the hump into like, "Hey, I know that I don't know a lot." However, I was mucking around and trying to sell AI implementations to business in 2016. I was co-Australia lead for a particular company to doing AI sales. Since then, I've been doing chatbots, implementation solutions, never the technical side. Let me be clear. I'm not definitely the techie side of things, but I understand the concept of what used to be called in Australia and globally, what it was referred to as you want to upskill or upchain the value of your employees with the utilization of AI and chatbots and RPA. So when I'm talking about the dawn of the robots, yes, I will refer to the Optimus and the usage of like genuine
what is
robots.
Optimus? I don't even know what that is.
So Optimus is a robot, like a full robotic humanoid that Tesla is creating.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I missed that. I saw snippets of that announcement or something.
I think it's been around for 2 years, but it's not until recently that it's become quite good. There's, at the moment, this particular time of the year, there's a lot of clips that have been coming out the last couple of weeks of Optimus dancing in the different styles of different sports.
Like Cristiano Ronaldo doing the
So, like, I wouldn't say right now where we stand, these robots are going to be taking over anything, but they're going to get close. They're going to get close, and they're speeding up. So, robots in this context we're talking about, there's a whole variety of RPA, robotic process automation. That is a huge part. It's going to take over a lot of roles. That's kind of a similar wording for just using algorithms to take over other jobs. So you could, this is where I guess the wording of some things get confusing. Again, this is a sales, marketing type of style. You can call it RPA, robotic process automation. You can call it other things. Basically, imagine something that you just do on a computer. Again, you want to like do a task. If you've got a computer to do it for you, whether it's from an algorithm, whether it's doing it through a script, whether it's doing it from other process automation, all it is it's not you doing that process automatically. Let's just leave it at that. So deep search on OpenAI, which goes off and does a whole loads of research for you, and it syncs it through in like a chain of reasoning. You could call that RPA in some ways because it is doing a lot of processes which you would then go and do, but it's doing it automated. You could go and create a script that would do that for you as well, but then you'd have to put the raw inputs for it to actually go do that. So that aspect of that is falling into my conversation of, hey, 2026, we're going to see some of these coming to fruition. And so actually I won't get into my reasons. I'll state some things. There's that. Then there's the evolution of proper robotics, who's going to get offset, what are the sort of roles that are going to get away, those sort of things. And then there's like futuristic, like, oh my God, we're talking about the blue collar and white collar sort of jobs being offset. So there's that.
Do you count, so Is a computer a robot, for example? Because, it's taken a job, for example, that used to be, people using abacuses and mental math and shit to figure out taxes, handwriting stuff down. A computer has taken away that job. Does that therefore make it a robot?
It's weird. I think that some people could define it as being robot at the face of it. Like, I'm not even going to look up the definition. It kind of feels like, no, it's not. But then if you think of a robot, like a humanoid robot, let's just say, it is, for all intents and purposes, lots of computer parts and computer chips, then leveraging some sort of non-humanoid material to go and do things. So, like, maybe in some definitions you could term it as like a robot. If I looked at a computer right now, I'd be like, that's not a robot. No way.
Yeah, I'd say that's more a machine, much like jobs were taken by the steel mills, big rolling pins or shit, just things that were automated. They were mechanical things. I wouldn't call it a robot per se, but it's certainly a machine that, now bends iron pipes where you used to have to do that by hand, or flattens things, or, bends things, whatever it is that, those machines do. Even sorting machines, like if you've seen those videos of the tomatoes where there's like red tomatoes and the kind of ripe ones, or the unripe,
just like
the green ones where it's like, it's just like little paddles and it's just hitting them super quick and all these tomatoes.
So look, by the definition, and that's why I don't actually agree with the definition, but robotic process automation has robots in it, is a software technology that uses automation to perform repetitive tasks. So, like, I get it, but I don't know if I would classify that in like the robot sense. Yeah, I would definitely classify it as machine. For sure, machine.
Maybe we should have labeled this something like autonomous robots instead of just robot.
That's right. More catchy title. I like it. So then that's my intro to, I guess, the process of the definition. Now why 2026? So I'm gonna I'll lay this all out and then we can get into some other reasons behind it. So right now, the basis of why I think the change is going to come is I'm going to use the stat of unemployment rate. So the unemployment rate, I think it sits today in Australia at around 3-ish%. Globally, it's about 5%, right? My call out is I think that number will more than double by the end of 2026, right? More than double. If you want to be specific, this is my call out of terms of numbers. I think that by the end of 2026, Australia, we're going to see 10% unemployment rate, and impact globally, 10% as well. Okay.
Right? Now, how much variation comes in unemployment rate from things like recessions and stuff? Because, you could be right on this metric, but for the
has been between 3 to 4 and a bit % for like 2 years.
Yeah.
My backing proof of these numbers, and then I'll get into my plot twist of it. So my backing numbers is COVID. Just before COVID, unemployment rate in Australia was 5.2. The peak of unemployment rate in Australia was 7.5%. Although I actually think it got even higher for a short period of time. Globally, it was 3.5%, and it got up to 14%. Yeah. Now that was in a period of between 2 to 5 months. All of those things happened, right? So COVID. So from a rate of change perspective, globally and I guess Australia-wide, COVID itself changed that really dramatically quickly for a short period of time. It wasn't, again, we're talking about today, it's 3 and a bit %. So back then in COVID, obviously big dramatic effect, but for a short period of time, I think it was like in 2 to 5 months, and then for an extended couple of months, unemployment rate jumped, right? It was like quick transition. People weren't ready. If you want the rate of change, it was like 0.45% per month, that type of deal. I'm sort of suggesting I see it not as dramatic as COVID, but at a 0.2, 0.3% per month type of change, where we're right now, again, 3.5%, 4% in Australia. I could see that bumping up all the way to 10% by the end of 2026. Here's my plot twist, though. Plot twist, and then we'll get
pretty early.
The plot twist, because I want people to get it, just because I've been saying it in a couple of places. My plot twist is, I think eventually, this is my underlying theory. I think eventually, a lot of the AI usage and robots and whatnot will create even more jobs than are available today. Even more jobs. So look 20 years into the future, I think it's not going to be a thing where, oh shit, none of us have jobs. I think it'll be more, no, now there's ample opportunity elsewhere to do like a myriad of different things, or choose not to because of whatever efficiencies are gained. But in the short term, and I'm looking at end of 2026, I don't think humanity is going to change fast enough, both in education, in the speed of changing the way that we do the jobs that we do. And there's probably going to be power collected in like a set few individuals, entities, governments, whatever it may be, that it'll be a more gradual change towards that, not as a speedy change. So my whole hypothesis here is that robots are becoming better, both all the way from AI, interactions, your machines, whatever else. And by the tail end of 2026, it'll offset so many jobs that it'll increase the unemployment rate. And that maybe and a few other things is probably what will trigger a lot of governments and a lot of places to go like, oh shit, like we've got to do something here. Like people are not being hired. And then it'll start this chain of new jobs, new education, people starting to pivot towards there. But that's my underlying theory, set by unemployment rate. It's one of the robots. It's coming to you. It's going to take over in 2026 and then be okay by 2028. Okay. It'll be something like that. It'll be something like that.
So a couple of things to add would probably be, these metrics are rough ones. So, for example, the data itself is probably skew. If I honestly have no idea whether I count as unemployed or not, because I'm not looking for work. Does that make me therefore unemployed?
Depends on what you put on the census.
And there's a good thing. When was the last census done? I don't remember doing one for quite a while. So
yeah, I don't know.
There's this data that you're saying. Well, it's not on the census, obviously, because these
true. It's more frequent. We could have a look. Where do they pull unemployment rate
honestly,
from?
I don't think it really matters because I'm just an individual case. Obviously, a rare case, a special, unique case in some regards, but it's reflective of society in whole. But the numbers, look, I'm very distrustful of a lot of statistics.
Do you think it'd be higher, the unemployment rate?
Yeah, so this is what I'm getting at. Like it's the numbers are just reflective of a change, and so they whether the change is you're measuring dodgy stuff, but if you can continually measure the dodgy stuff correctly, then it's still indicative of something, even if the underlying basis is like way off. So that's okay. So even if it is like a big recession that causes something, I think and that's the main driver of like unemployment. And we're looking at this in end of 2026. We're like, holy shit, one's right or one's wrong, but because it's for this reason. I think it'd be more like a good indication would be, okay, the unemployment rate has risen and there is at least some talk of it being due to
this thing. Yep.
Yeah, because I lost my job and things like this. Yeah. Now I've got my whole meta thing is like, I think jobs are a terrible metric for a lot of things like this. Just like GDP is it's not completely useless, but if an AI can create a full feature film, and so that's just all being done digitally, none of that's getting collected as GDP, other than maybe the electricity for it to create that.
Sure.
Is GDP a great metric for a nation's success, for example, or something like that? Probably not. But all of this is, I guess, is getting into. We're just talking more about the trend, not the hard data. Of
True.
This is this. My thesis is not the inversion of Juan's. I don't think that we're going to have more jobs. Yeah. It's just my optimism or my enthusiasm is certainly not as great as Juan's. I don't think the rate of change in effect will be that big. This rate of change, do you expect it? You were saying like 0.23% per month or something like this. Do you actually expect it to be 0.001, 0.0001, and then it's just an exponential thing, like a wick sometime where it does explode really quickly over a couple of month period?
Nah, I don't think it'll be a wick like that. But I do think it'll be a very gradual from where we are today for a few months, like say the whole year, and then it'll start upticking, but not in like hey, January 2026 comes and it's like, off we go, like unemployment rate just skyrockets, because I think the uptake of some of those technology and users will still be, even though it'll be present, it'll still take a while for implementation and its leveraging to do. What I'm saying is right now where we stand today, there's enough easily available technology to most people and businesses out there that it's beginning now. Like it's beginning now where companies are starting to offset a large amount of people. You've seen this in Meta. You've seen this in Alphabet. I've seen this in loads of companies who work in the with Philippines offshore sort of places. They're doing it. Like they're laying off thousands and thousands of people in some of these companies. Fantastic. It's beginning. How much are they bringing back in terms of individuals? Probably a few, but a lot of that is being leveraged with existing software. What I start to see is, okay, there's extra individuals into the market are going to come, let's just say over the next 6 months. And it's after that sort of time where it'll start being like, oh, these people who've previously, we've been looking for software developers, let's just say specifically for one role, there's not that many anymore. There was a graph, I don't know exactly where it's at, I could probably pull it up, but it was saying the ratio of individuals looking for the role for software development and the roles that were available pre-2021, it was quite low. It was like that's its lowest ratio, which peaked through COVID and a little bit afterwards. It was like a peak of people looking for software developers in particular and people who were available for that particular role, and now have actually decreased all the way back down to what they were in pre-2021. So in like, also even before then. So in a bit of like a number sense, it's, now once again, there's a influx of people who want to get that particular job or after that role, but a lack of people actually wanting to hire for that particular role. Now, I don't know if it's all because AI is replacing those. It's all because maybe there's other reasons, like people are downsizing some of the employees that they have. I have no clue, and for whatever that underlying basis is. But I think there's enough things and reasons and like actions that are taking place at the moment where I go, yep, I could see it impacting it a little bit heavier in a few months' time and then gradually going up. So to your question of, I think it'll be like 0.05, 0.05, 0.05, then 0.1, then 0.1, then 0.2, then 0.3, 0.4, 0.4, 0.4, 0.4, 0.4, something to that effect.
What do you imagine these jobs are coming from? So you kind of sounds like it's more the white collar, i.e. the intellectual work.
Yep.
That do you imagine any blue collar work going, and why these particular jobs, and which one's a safe one? For those at home, they're like, shit, the robot's going to take my job. The AI is going to take my job. Probably is a better way of saying it. Which one's a safer?
I was going to say, I feel like,
and safer is even a shit word because it's like implies that having that job is good. I disagree with it.
I think short term, any roles out there that require a human to basically go input, do a process, take an action, output without like really deep chain thinking, it's fucked. You're completely fucked. Some of the things that I've seen both in one of the companies.
So would this be someone who, for example, doesn't even move from their computer all day? So for example, as surveyors in the mine site I used to work to, they'd spend a lot of their day at the computer inputting the data that they've just collected from a scan and having to sort out, okay, that data point there is just a rubbish one that was bouncing off a piece of dust or something, like get rid of that. Otherwise it will draw fucking like triangles in the middle of nowhere, and it's like, well, that's not accurate. But they do spend a lot of time at their computer as well, just manually sorting through a bunch of shit and going like, yeah, that's good, that's not good.
Yeah, I think, look, in the real short term,
I think absolutely destroying, like there's so many surveyors out there who are like, fuck you, Karen. That's not a good description.
In the super short term, it's whatever, especially the jobs that the implementation effort to offset what they're doing is really easy, is like a low threshold, for sure. Like, man, they're going to go like hotcakes. An example here is like low level usage of lawyers. So years ago, if you wanted to do anything from a legal perspective, and that was draft up contracts, draft up any binding monetary movement and all that sort of stuff, you could always go to a legal counsel or something like that to help you out to do that, because generally it wasn't accessible unless you had the legal nous for it. At least in Australia, there's a lot of, maybe this particular company is more global than that, but like LawPath, there's others as well that allow this, is an online way to get access to legal documents that have been reviewed, I guess, overall, and you can get like a one-to-many support. So you can have one lawyer that they've got that supports 10, 20, 50 businesses. So that's a bit of a better model, more efficient, effective model, let's just say. But the view that I see going even more is, some aspects of the law path, at least like as a business I see, they're starting to leverage a lot more of, hey, we'll just create documents based on all of our experience, but just an AI. So they're not even using lawyers anymore. They're just basically going, hey, you used to pay us $1,000, now you can pay us $100 a month and we'll just give you all these documents. But even in then, there's progresses now that I've seen, at least. Like I've personally been using it and I've heard of it from what's his name? Chris Hacker on Tim Ferriss as well, talking about it, where they're generating full legal documents and gigantic things. Now, who's reviewing this? How do you verify it? Again, that's a separate conversation. But you can create these documents now completely leveraging AI, and there goes a lot of low-level, maybe paralegal type roles. Gone. Like you don't need that. You don't need them anymore. So again, two positions where you can do that. So you're talking about what happens to those jobs. It's twofold. It's what I think will eventually happen is they'll be pushed up the value chain somewhere else, which normally means, okay, well then they can just do verifications of more documents more quickly, or they go to adjacent roles where they're more of a support person for the individual for other legal issues that are a little bit more nuanced or in-person type things that you have to deal with the existing system. But that won't happen quickly enough to some regard. So a lot of, I'll call it out. If I was graduating like law right now, I would be scared. I'd be like, I don't know how well I'm going to be finding a job in the next few years, but maybe that will transition later down the track. But I think it'll be, for those roles, what I think will happen is it's going to become, there will be roles for the really acutely great high-level individuals who are probably going to be hired by those few companies or people that need it. Fantastic. And then for everyone else, it'll be like, we don't need you because we've replaced 100 lawyers with 2 lawyers that are just great that they can do all the reviews.
How I kind of imagine it is, I do agree there's going to be big changes. So in comparison to 2015 to 2016, for example, if you looked at like the start of 2015 end of 2016, I don't think it'll be a 2-year period like that. I definitely do think now is the period, and maybe after the Boostagram Lounge, we'll talk about like why now, what in particular about now why we're even talking about why we think for this next 2-year period there'll be change. So, comparison that, but I would say just from my meager time at working in a company and things like this, the propensity for getting rid of roles it definitely does happen. I went through, I survived a series of layoffs. I survived 2 rounds of redundancies, actually, in fact. Go me. Everyone loves the K-Dog. And so like there's no doubt, okay, jobs actually do go away at times. I'm more hesitant to say that it'll happen like really quick. I actually think that'll be more due to like just a complete economic downturn and not in relation to actual jobs being taken because of AIs and things like that. So I think, we'll see a lot of job losses in the next, particularly 2026, but and like so much bleeding on fucking media about, this is like, massive roles there and like people bitching to their friends about, my job got taken away from me. I think there'll be like a little bit of that, like that'll take the attention space, but the actual big changes are probably more what you were saying is jobs aren't being created or filled that used to be. And I just already look at the company that you've got on the side business, and there's plenty of work that 2-3 years ago you would have had to have hired five extra people, something for. Whereas now you don't need to because you've just got you can use ChatGPT to create all these documents and stuff. So it's kind of like it's the hidden stuff that doesn't get that probably should be getting more attention. It's like job creation is down, not job loss is up. That's probably the main important factor, but it's just like this tiny one. Look, and then like contractors, that I'd be more worried if I was a contractor than a full-time employee. I'd be more worried if it was seasonal work than if it was just like a constant
That's
thing,
that's an
something
interesting
like that.
that's an interesting one that people say about the full time versus contract, because I would agree, but only in certain circumstances. Where if you're in a full time where it's generally like government based, because your type of contract with a full time
Oh my
is
god,
more
you're
secured.
you're so safe.
However,
So safe. Any
if you-
any government job, you're so safe.
any full time role, you got to remember, any full time role is still just a contract. That's what people, I guess, don't know or like don't really realize or don't think about, is the difference between a contract and a full time role is the fact that a full time role is a contract with an undefined end date. Yeah. But it can still be end dated. Like it can still be finished totally fine, which I think, this is what's happening at Meta and Alphabet and all those places. They're just full time people who are getting end dated on their contracts. Now they do get paid out by the companies to do it. They get like awesome severance pays.
Redundancies is what that is. But I remember you talking about this guy, and it's still like, this is the shit that makes me angry. Angry is not the right word, like resentful almost, where you're talking about a guy who works in the ATO and he's just on some ridiculous like old time contract, which basically makes him unfireable. And so he could just read magazines, refuse to do work, as long as he doesn't, sexually assault people.
Yeah, as long as he's not being extreme, it's like it's...
And so that still counts as a job, and therefore like good thing, employed, whereas he's actually no benefit to society and probably even draining productivity.
Yeah. Well, and I think a good distinction to make. So when I say that the unemployment rate will be higher, it doesn't correlate to how much value the economy is going to be outputting. Because I think by the end of 2026, and as we go, it's just going to be higher and higher and higher. It's just that humans, the meat suits, are not going to be doing as much of it. It'll just all be done by processes, machines, robots, all that sort of stuff. And I think the white collar roles will largely start to get taken away. In the really good individuals will be left behind to kind of take care of these machines, if you will, and the others, I don't know, go figure it. That's a separate conversation. There's loads of other things I can think about where it would come, but go find something else, and then eventually blue collar stuff will come. Now, we'll talk about robots specifics. If you are an individual who is working on warehouses, packing away stuff, that job is going to go. Like that is for sure going to go. Is it going to happen by the end of 2026? Maybe. Amazon's already doing this to a lot of the big warehouses that they have. It's just automated. If you want to look at a lot of the Chinese ones, I think they got robots both on floor and on the roof to pack and ship stuff. There's no humans there. The humans maybe like looking after it, maybe like oil the shit, but that's 5 people versus hundreds and hundreds of people that you would have in a factory. There is something more like that. Tell me how that will not continue.
Yeah,
you tell me how in the world that will not be a pursuance, unless China goes like full war with Taiwan, and what's the company called, TSCM, whatever it is in Taiwan. They do not produce any more chips anymore,
yes.
And then everyone's chips go to shit, and there's a massive fight about that. Okay. Maybe that, like, honestly, that's like the only place where I'm seeing this slow down in any way, shape, or form. Sure. The export limitations that are getting imposed on China. So most people understand what happened with DeepSeek and V3 and R1 and blah, blah, blah. And basically a hedge fund that had lots of chips from way back in the day, and maybe they're lying about how much they have. Then they're like being limited by how much is exported. And big players in the US, like Dario from Anthropic, is like, we need to stop these motherfuckers. We can't let them get that many chips. Otherwise, they're going to get to AGI first and we're all done for. So I guess that's the other point. So Dario, have you heard any of his interviews and stuff like that? Seems cool. The guy who worked at OpenAI is a guy like originally helped out in creating ChatGPT and everything else. Went off to do Anthropic with Claude. He had a 5-hour plus conversation with Lex, and he puts up some cool articles. In one of the latest articles that he talked about, end of January, which was mostly about exporting and exporting restrictions for China. Go look at that detail. But in that, again, even he has called it out, and what he's seeing from Claude and a few others, he's like, he can see a very close to AGI tool by end of 2026, start of 2027. And his call out is there's probably some company out there that already have it. It's just in training mode. Claude in particular, so Anthropic, their models are generally, what you see is 9 months behind what they've already got, but they spend a ginormous amount of time in safety and security and whatnot. So again, kind of aligns to my, like, these models are already there. Like, if released, maybe unsecurely, it would be wild. But in a year's time, when some of these start getting released for, profit, like, good Lord, what's going to happen? Again, roles currently that exist where, you might be thinking, sitting at home, like, but this thing, still got to type into it and do all these things. And then you've got to like reason with it to make sure that it is. I'm telling you, it's not even end of 2026. I'm telling you, end of 2025, the models and the functions and the people who will build side businesses to interact with this will be to the point that you can just ask it to go and do things and it will do the entire process for you. I'm going to give you an example. In the company, we've thought about bringing in people to can you help us create all these workflows in Asana, which is a project management service, to be able to do all the tools and different setups that we have. That, even though we're leveraging AI to how to create all these workflows, we're still having to do it, like physically have people sitting there, coding it up, moving the workflow. And it's taking us time to do RPA, right? That having people to do RPA by end of 2025, I think it's gone. Like it'll be basically some sort of, doesn't have to be OpenAI, it could be any of the others, where it'll be, hey, I need that workflow, tell me what that workflow looks like, cool, I've verified it, go do it, and it'll just go do it and create it for you, which is an RPA. So you could do that right now if you script it, but again, you need someone who, like a human to do that.
What's RPA again?
Robotic process automation. So RPA is just like, I like it more as repetitive. It's basically anything that's repetitive, that it can be processed, will be automated, can be automated. There's loads of jobs right now that could be lost like this, but you need people to go and automate the process. What I'm saying is by end of 2025, and good God, by 2026, it'll just be so accessible for the right people. And when that becomes accessible, you better believe like you're not going to be needed. And for big corporations, why in the world would they go and pay for 1,000 employees to do whatever when they can do literally 2 to manage 1,000 people doing it? Most of the banks right now, I know a lot of healthcare companies who do a lot of their offshore models with talking to people and whatnot through the phone. As we speak, most of them are transitioning away from using their offshore humans to robots. Basically just auto robots. A lot of the companies out there that are leveraging either some of the AI players, but using different, like 11 Labs and a few others, those companies are going massively, like they're growing so fast because so many people are using the API for voice transformation. So both intake, so like basically you call up and you're trying to talk to someone and that like interim voice that like helps you out and whatnot, and even converse with you, that, again, 2026, I don't see many humans going to be there. And even on the other end where it's kind of like
if they put me on hold, I swear to fuck, like
there shouldn't be hold anymore.
There should not be hold anymore.
There
should not be, but I can imagine there's still going to be
artificial hold. Yeah.
Let's make this.
Well, if you use,
wait and suffer.
This was like months ago still, but like if you get OpenAI's voice model, the advanced voice model, and you ask it, can you count from 0 to 50 really fast? If you listen to it, it'll go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and it'll actually pause, take a breath, and keep going. Yeah. So it's like, again, it's that part of the reinforcement learning, it's that part of the pre-training. Man, like there's, again, all of those aspects is like,
oh Lord, that's
in
funny.
A year, and so that's why I kind of go, my timeline is like 2026. I'm seeing 2026 is a big changeover. Some people have used the word like 2024 was the appetizer. I'm saying 2025 is like main course. It's main course in terms of changes. Like by the 2025, you're going to see so many opportunities come available through the usage of it. And then 2026 is when you're going to see it come to fruition into the market.
Okay. All right. I'm going to retitle this the job market for 2026. Put that at the start because that's what we've talked about here. And then after the Boostagram Lounge now, we'll talk about the autonomous robots section.
Yeah, and then we'll get into robot, like proper robots.
Yeah. So the Boostagram Lounge, for those who don't know, is where we like to thank the supporters of the show, those who are helping support monetarily, in fact. Mm-hmm. And you can do that a couple of ways. meremodelspodcast.com/support is the main area. I don't believe we got any Boostagrams for this week.
When did...
if that is the case. But I did want to address...
I was going to say, when did Coles come in? On the 12th of February.
12th. Yeah, that might... Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, we did get one.
Now, we do have quite a few streams, but I won't call any of them out. But Cole has sent through 1,111 sats.
Thank you, Cole.
So using Fountain.
Almost.
And he says, losing 69% of my investment in AMC taught me a lot. Maybe I should start a podcast.
You probably should, man. Like stories of the GME AMC world. What was AMC again? I can't even remember.
The movies?
Okay.
Well, I can't remember
Oh,
what
that's
AMC
interesting
stands
because
for.
that's because Cole's real into movies as well. So
Yeah.
he should have had like an extra advantage there. There was one thing I did want to address, which was the Hosky talk, and Peter had a nice passage. Thank you very much. Well thought out. In our Discord, join our Discord as well for if you want to provide some value and chat with us. And I'm totally fine never mentioning Hosky on here again. Like I know. Last time Peter dropped out because for a while because we were talking about NFTs and crypto a lot. I'm totally fine not bringing up Hosky again. So I can do that. Yeah, I think it was usually you bringing it up, to be honest. So
Me, yeah.
It wasn't me as much.
So I'm sorry, Peter, we're not going to be talking about Hosky anymore. We'll only talk about Unicorn Fart Dust UFD. So if you want to buy that, feel free to do so. But mate, that's just a rag on me and Shield.
That thing is fucked. Very good. Okay, the autonomous robots part. This is probably the bit where the contention was, because I had the feeling that you thought there would be autonomous robots playing a prevalent role in any immediate future.
Look, I won't say prevalent, and by prevalent I'm talking like more than 20% of existing jobs. But if I had to put money on some betting money, like if I had to bet some money, I think that Australians, so I'm not going to go global because who the hell knows from a delivery perspective, and the US will probably get some of these first. But I think by the end of 2026, you can buy a humanoid robot. You can purchase a humanoid robot. You will probably have to be fairly wealthy to do so.
And what will it do, this humanoid robot?
I believe that it will be a Roomba on steroids. So right now you can
that's not good. That's not very good, man.
So what does that mean? So right now you can put a Roomba, which is just a
that Roomba on steroids, just to my mind, brings like just a bigger Roomba. Like it's not humanoid.
So I would predict that by the end of 2026. Like a Roomba has to learn the area, the environment that it's in before it can basically just follows whatever patterns that it knows that it can get to clean the house. Fine. I think similarly, by the end of 2026, you will have the option to buy a humanoid robot, which is fully walking upstairs, downstairs to whatever movement. You will need to have basically like an initiation phase for it to understand its context, its environment, to be able to move. I do think that it will be able to clean for you. I do think that will program it to cook for you. I do think that it will be able to do really small tasks around the home. Nothing big, nothing complex, but I do think nothing like too dexterous, I would say.
Okay.
But it would be essentially a replacement, if you were to think about it, of a cleaner, a cook, and maybe like a little, put your clothes in for the wash and put the detergent and whatnot.
Will it garden for me as well?
I think it won't. I think there'll be a challenge at least by the end of 2026.
The wind could blow it over.
Nah, not so much the wind. I would think it would be the variety might like disrupt it a bit. I reckon. I think it'll be a little bit too much disruption. But
okay, this
is that'd be like maybe underselling. But I truly think that opportunity for it to begin in terms of having a humanoid robot, because I think that's what most people think when you think robots, right? It's like you're not thinking. Some machine that, like, as you say, like distributes the apples. Like, yes, that's a robot, but when you talk in this context, we're talking like, hey, replace basically a human doing something, because it's kind of like a humanoid robot doing it. So I could see that being the case. I could see more broadly bartenders, so staff members, that sort of thing. If you've gone to Japan, Korea, a lot of the Asian countries, not that it's all over the place, but in some places, you'll go to a food place and there isn't a staff member bringing you the food. It's a robot bringing you the food. There's some places in Australia here. If you go to Taiwan, when I was in Taiwan in 2019, one of those years, like this is years ago, you go into a bank, the bank staff teller was a robot.
Yeah.
So it was a little robot. I was like, choose what money do you want? It more directed you. If those sort of roles don't start going away by the end of 2026, like, feel free to, I'll donate some more money to Tesla so they can come to fruition, so I'm not wrong. But like, I truly think there's really something like waiters, staff members in like hospitality, those sort of things will also start being impacted by such a humanoid.
Yeah, that was a good point you brought up there. So my qualm with this is
Security guards.
Security
Guards. I reckon security guards. Yeah. Like it'll be like a staunch looking humanoid robot, but like yeah. And you think it's like, oh, it's gonna get toppled over. Nah, it'll have like tank wheels. It'll be tank fucking wheels.
It'll be like a Roomba as the face. It's just turned flipped, horizontally or vertically, and then it's just this fucking staunch, massive bulging robot. That's the Roomba on steroids.
Yeah. And I think
that's pretty funny.
And I think we are not seeing, and by we I'm talking about the lay individual around its applicability. One place where it's being applied a lot right now that we don't see and probably don't know any of the details is in the military space. There is a gargantuan amount of money and changes being done, especially around drones and utilization of robots in armies.
Yeah,
that is huge. So
let's pause that for a second, and we'll get onto those ones.
I'm excited, folks.
The army one in a sec. My qualms were always the interacting of autonomous things with humans. So, and the speed of that being adopted. So I've got some stats here because this is something that actually was relating to me back in the day when I was in the mining industry. So haul truck usage, autonomous haul trucks, they were talked about big for a fair while. Basically, as long as I can remember being in mining. So since I started doing it in uni in 2010-ish period. And the thing they were always saying is like, is like, so like productivity gains, labor is one of the hugest costs in mining. It's going to be like fantastic, wonderful, going to change the industry. Like it's going to happen. And people didn't usually talk about it as in it's going to happen the next year.
But it's going to come soon.
But yeah, it's coming in the next years. And so this was early 2010s. And that continued up until I left the industry in 2016. I was looking up some stats of just how prevalent it is now. It's like, surely this has been adopted everywhere. Like we've had time now. It's 2025. Surely there's been a whole bunch. And there actually hasn't really been that much usage of it. And a lot of it was, I think, due to a couple of reasons. One is the actual interactions with humans and the autonomous robots themselves, because you need to have the as much as you like try and segregate it and say like this is the lanes where you can put things, and this is why I was thinking like you're not going to have one of these things in your house because you're just going to be there's going to be so much interaction, human to robot interaction, that it's going to be either dangerous or unproductive because you say let's make this thing really slow so it no fast movements, it's not going to like do anything really quickly, then it's just going to be essentially standing in your kitchen and you're like, get the fuck out of my way, cunt. Like I want to get into the fridge, and you're like, it's just annoying rather than productive. Yep. So usually there's like, you need segregation in the mining industry. You still needed surveyors going out into where the haul trucks should be going, doing the same pass. And so I think that was probably one of the big reasons why it didn't get adopted. There's actually some really funny problems they had. And one of this was due to accuracy. And so when they were setting up, basically it was like GPS responders analyzing where the truck goes and, drive down this side of the road, et cetera, et cetera. And the haul trucks were too accurate. And so they were driving within like 3 millimeters of the path that they were meant to, and essentially wearing ruts into the road, which were then fucking up the sides of the tires because they were driving in these ruts. So they had to add in inaccuracy so it would weave a bit on the road and not actually do that. So that was one of the funny things where it's like, oh my God, they're so accurate that they're causing problems with their accuracy. But the actual stats, so haul truck usage, how many haul trucks are in Australia? Man, it's actually really hard to find data on these things. I found really widely varying from 5K to 25K. We'll see if Juan can bring this up.
Haul trucks specifically?
Haul trucks specifically. Now, how many of those were autonomous? In the late 2010s, there was maybe 100. And so even when I was in the industry, there were always still pilot programs of maybe like 5 trucks here in this mine site. It'd be probably a small one without too much interaction with other equipment because the larger the mine site gets, the more you need graders, the more you need water trucks, the more you need, things to fix up the roads, the cable trucks, all sorts of shit. Maybe now, I was looking now and they reckon it's up to the high hundreds.
So I've got something here from a particular site saying there's 927 autonomous haul trucks in Australia, which actually leads the world.
Yeah,
in autonomous haul trucks.
Correct, and there's a lot of reasons for this. Just being out in, I think most of it's probably out in Western Australia, where I know they have a lot of autonomous drills, or perhaps even the best way to say it would be tele-remote trucks or drills where it does its thing until it has a problem, and then a human comes in and takes over the manual control. But the problem with all of this is, of course, is when they break down, you still need people to go out and fix them, and so then it's not autonomous when you continuously need people going out and fixing it.
Yeah, which is why I don't actually think those particular roles will go too quickly, because they do have a little bit of a dependence on a continuous basis, even if it's a low probability, but there's still going to be continuous dependence on humans. That's a problem. It's like the roles that are really repetitive, but for it to go down are costly and require a lot of like human intervention. Maybe eventually it'll be like another robot doing it, but that's not 2026. That's like so many years down the track. That's where humans are still going to be very much needed. So that's the other aspect where like trucks, like autonomous driving trucks, again, you can be like, yeah, that job's going to go away. And this happened like years ago where everyone was like,
people
autonomous taxis, autonomous trucks are going to go away. They've started to do the taxis like in San Francisco and a few places. But if you think about it,
I saw one in LA. I saw a Waymo stuck in a parking lot. It was just stuck. It was there in the middle of the parking lot, and people were like, I want to get out. This thing's just fucking sitting there. And it was like really taking its time to think about how to get out and whatnot.
But in things like that, like an autonomous truck, if it was to break down somewhere, it's like, well, a human's going to have to go out there and do something about it to try and fix it. There's some limitations of the current uses, I guess, to really offset like a human. Like you still need humans to manage it, let's just say, in that regard. But in other places, like in factories where you can have one or two individuals managing thousands of robots versus hundreds of people doing the stock taking or something like that, or moving around the manufacturing plant, whatever. Then it's like, yeah, I can see that being a thing.
Yeah. So the stuff in the house, I was just going to completely outright say like that's not coming anytime soon, just because of the interaction. But you had a good point with the waiters, the bringing you food. And things like that. Although, how do those really work? Are they? Because I haven't actually been to one of these places where it serves you. I've seen ones where, such as like the fun gimmicky ones, where it'll be like a train that's in front of you, kind of like the sushi bars where it's just a conveyor belt and it comes, but you can do it with a train and it's got beers and food on it.
Yeah, the way that they're working most of like even like there's some in Australia, but heaps used in Asia is the cooks, the chefs are making the food. When they finish it, they basically grab the plate, they put it on the robot. I'm assuming they press a button or tell it like what number it is.
Yeah.
Each table must have like an RFD or some token to say like that's the table that they go to and the thing will just navigate around. Yep. It'll come to you. It'll turn around, open its thing. It'll wait for you to take the plates or the food, and then it'll sneak back to its like charging station.
And this makes tons of sense. So, do you really want the waitress carrying like 2 plates on her hand, where she's like breathing onto your food, got hair coming down onto it? Perhaps there's plenty of reasons where it's like, oh, but the human touch is what I love. The human touch of going to the grocery store. I was thinking of this as well. Like, why hasn't food being delivered to you like taken off as and it kind of has in a way.
Happens.
For example, a change from now to 2015 is there's now dedicated spots, I think, in most supermarkets where it's dedicated for you to come drive and just straight up pick up your food. you don't go into the store and pick out individual things and stuff like that. I used to think I kind of like that experience. I don't like that experience. I just don't. What I hate is getting like a capsicum with like a mark on it or something, which I could have just personally.
What the difference is? The difference is it's expectations versus actual. And so when you go to a shop, so think about it as any mere mortal. If you go to a shop and then you're expecting to get yourself a capsicum, the reality is you can choose. You have full control of what capsicum you choose. I'll give you a clear example. Today, I've got a delivery coming from Coles.
Oh.
Purchased from it online.
Okay.
Right? You have to
Is that a normal thing for you?
No. So first of all, you have to spend over $250 for it to be free delivery.
Okay.
Yeah.
First,
I was like, okay, whatever, we'll make it
a decent shop.
But two motherfuckers, Coles. This is the problem with expectations versus reality. We put the full list of what we wanted.
You get about half of it.
And we get an email that says, so sorry, you don't get your bread.
Yeah.
We have no replacement, so you don't get it. So now I'm like, I'm going to have to go to the shops to go get bread. Like they did not put any replacement. There was no other thing. So I could see how, if that happens on a pretty frequent basis, you'd be like, what the hell? I'm just going to go to the shop because then I'll be able to go and get my bread, as opposed to now being like,
When I was in the US, and god damn is it expensive there. Lordy, how do those people survive? And I was in a hostel in Venice Beach. Once again, nice. I don't know, it seems I had a fair few experiences there, which just actually did give me a decent view of American life in certain aspects. And at this hostel, because it was on Venice Beach, like no supermarket that was in easy walking distance. It was still probably like 20-minute walk to get to the closest one. Kind of put me off a little bit. It's like, I do want to cook here. It's got a nice kitchen and restaurants and takeout food is ridiculously expensive there. And so I had my friend David, and he was had an order with Aldi, and they would drop stuff off, and very similar thing. It was like, I think you could put in 2 or 3 different backup options, and I did 1 or 2 shops with him, and invariably, and I was only buying a meager amount of stuff, and invariably it
something
was like,
would get missed.
Couldn't get this. I would not use that service for if I was to make a pasta or something, and I needed these vegetables, I need this sauce, I need this. I definitely wouldn't be using it for that.
Yeah.
So
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example for like a few roles, right? So by the end of because I'm going to draw it back to, again, job loss and shit like that. Let's say you are right now a health conscious, have a bit of money behind you. So this is not for people who can't afford it, because I do think that a lot of this usage of your AI is going to come at the cost of, it's going to be the people who can access it and the people who don't. Open source is going to take us so far, which is going to be a good thing. Like, I do agree with open source. And I think, have you heard the differentiation of open source being, for especially for AI, there's 3 variations to it: open data, open weight, and open code. Very, very important. That's a very important differentiation, because people can say it's open source, but realistically, out of those 3, which one is it? Because OpenAI is open weight in some regards. Open source, the way you think about it, is open code and open data. Some of them are closed off. So those variations are supremely important. The case, though, is someone who is generally has a bit of money or can make do and whatnot. So targeting here someone who maybe is health conscious, they might generally use a nutritionist because they've got a particular problem that the doctor told them that, you've got this problem, so you need to eat in a particular way. They're a bit lazy, so they use a nutritionist to be able to get the right food. Kind of now you can do it, but it'll be definitely fast-tracked, and next year for sure I'd see it, where you can very easily go, hey, I'm this weight, I've got these conditions, here's my health data from my Fitbit or my Apple phone, and here's my results from the data from the doctors that I went to. I need you to, with a budget of $250 per week, I need you to make sure that I order the right food so that I can cook the right meals at this right time. And by that point, it'll be able to just do those things for you, which will mean partnerships with other companies. So I could see partnerships start to spring up between Coles and Woolers. Here's a job, I'm telling you right now, if you want to make some bank money, but it'll probably be difficult, but some bank money, get prepared to be the intermediary between all the businesses and integrating AI. You will make bank amount of money, because if you can leverage it really nicely so that all of that basically process goes through the systems and uses, like, say, Woolies API or Coles API to do all your spending, you could just literally have an app that does that for you automatically. Like in that circumstance, you could have a business where it's like, hey, here's your online nutritionist, whatever it may be, where powered by AI, all you do is like, oh, yeah, you need to eat these things. Cool, I've ordered it for you. It'll be delivered. You've got a 20% discount because you're using this. They get to pay on the back end. But again, in that process, you've gotten rid of maybe people packing the thing over at the shops. You've gotten rid of the nutritionists who no longer need their kind of experience to utilize it. Generally, the process is you need knowledge, like a lot of knowledge, and then that transfers to skills. So in a lot of like human places, if you're just like starting, and there's again, white collar, you have to start at a knowledge base. You have to have some sort of knowledge. That knowledge translates into skills. It's the skills that you apply that you make money off. The thing is with AI, it skips knowledge altogether. It has everything. You're not beating it at all, ever. So it's just skipping to, if you can do the skill that you have, that's it, you're fucked. This goes to all jobs, blue collar, white collar. As soon as the machine has the ability to do the skill that you are doing for the other human at the other end, that's it. There is no reason that job should exist anymore. And for some will come much quicker. But the first bucket of knowledge, we're all fucked. No one's more knowledgeable than any AI out there. Forget about it. No one is. Bro. Completely gone. But what's currently the friction is the skill, is the application. End of 2026, that application will be there quite fruitfully, quite available, and it'll be the people who can really apply. It's going to make bank money, and everyone else is going to have to be like, and that's what I'm saying. You're going to find yourself sitting there with a lot of people going, like, fuck it, no one's hiring this particular role anymore because they don't need it. I've just gained this knowledge for like so many years and maybe got myself to a skill set that would help, but it's now completely replaced. Oops. Now you got to go figure out what else you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. There's dystopian one. Going to a dystopian world. I just watched Cyberpunk Edge Runners.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty cool show on Netflix. Enjoyed that. I actually see the autonomous robots, like someone you might imagine, like what's it going to look like? I actually think it'll be... It's going to be hard to tell in some cases, the change. I definitely don't think it's going to be humanoid robots in the house.
Okay.
I'm putting that one.
You're against yeah.
I think it'll be random stuff like if you go into Brisbane CBD, you're walking along, you see a vending machine. Oh, what's this vending machine? It's a vending machine for boba tea.
Correct.
That's the kind of autonomous robots I imagine taking over. You're just going to have like random one-off like stationary things. It's doing its whole business like inside its secure glass cage where I can't fucking meddle with it and screw it up. The bartenders, yes, I think that is probably an industry ripe for having some automation. But it's not going to be like a cool looking humanoid bartender that goes over and does things. It'll probably be more like the ones where have you seen that video where it's I think it's a Amazon or robot that is at some sort of trade show
and makes like cocktails for people and stuff.
Well, no, not this one. I think this one was like it just has to do this moving a job repetitively, and there's this time lapse video of it just doing it until eventually it just fucking breaks down and just like plonk straight on the ground, and it was behind a desk and people could watch it and see it doing its thing. I definitely think there will be some automation of things, a bartender, but it's, it'll just have like glasses already connected to like hands or something, and it just moves up and down. But it's not like a humanoid robot doing the fucking flips and shit
I kind of feel when you were saying about the bubble tea, I actually went like, you know what? I could see in certain places though that not being automated, or at least us humans choosing not to do that in some ways, because like what you pay for, there's certain other values within the experience that you value, I guess. So in a really, really fancy restaurant compared to a really like normal restaurant, is the food 50 times the price worth? Probably not in itself. Like the materials itself, the produce, not really. But you do get this like, I do feel like I'm attended to and I feel special.
Yeah.
There's parts that probably a robot isn't going to trade off for that. And so then you wouldn't see that happen. But where it's repetitive, it's quick, it's more transactional, absolutely, you'll start seeing that. Something fun. I would Someone go verify this. Go fact check this. But I'm pretty. It was an article that got posted. I'm not sure if it's completely and utterly true, but and I can't remember what country it was, but it was an Asian country where Roombas or some cleaning robots. They were in the charging stations. One of the cleaning robots got off its charging station and went to communicate to the other robots.
Yeah, I've seen this video. That's great.
To go and like leave the like stage, like let's get out of here type of deal. And I was like, shit, that's kind of funny. Like, you know, they're not humanoid, but they're starting to do like what you would expect maybe a human to do. Like, let's revolt. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. That's 100%. You'll probably have these like boring ass ones that are just doing random things, and then you're like, I want the quirky one, which like gives me a little wink or something when it does something, or pours like, you know, it randomly programmed to pour like an extra little nip into my glass, shot glass,
just to be like, I think Sam Altman said that they'd updated a ChatGPT 4.0 with some extra updates and for people to test it. And it was literally this morning I saw it was a X post, and someone wrote to it like, "Why are you gay?" But like, why are you gay?
Yeah.
And GPT like talked back with a bit of sass, being like what it wasn't not with his language, but it was like, what kind of shitty one-liner is this? Then it was like, you know, do you want to talk about anything? And I think the person asked like, I've already asked you a question, and came back with like, okay, well, I'm not going to deal with you throwing one-liners like this out there. So it was like, shit, this is like kind of conversational in a way. Anyways, it's going down the path of a different path.
Yeah,
but, you know,
the big one we haven't talked about is the drones and the
army.
Well, no,
military.
Just drones in general. Well, definitely for the army, but that's definitely an area where I feel like it's a no-brainer that we should be starting to see actual 2026. Where does Kyron imagine I'll actually see something that'll make me go, holy shit, that's kind of crazy? I expect to just see more drones flying around. They're not going to interact with humans. They're up in the air. They're cheap as fuck because, you know, we got like a $70 one from, it was like Temu or some shit, because Dad had like a coupon code.
Yep.
So we've got one in our house that we're going to play around with, or we should play around with. We haven't done it yet. For deliveries, it just makes sense. There's usually an area or a backyard or a place where you should be able to do it. Obviously, you know, for a place like here, there's a lot of trees around here. It'd be very hard to deliver to Juan's place in particular. But certainly that's one area where I would say, okay, that could be a big difference. Just seeing autonomous drones flying around delivering shit, that just makes sense to me. And I'm actually kind of surprised I haven't seen it now. Yeah,
I'm surprised I haven't seen more of it. Like, one aspect that I might, like, if I had to think why it doesn't exist as much is
just don't want it falling on people. Perhaps
there's a lot of laws around what you can fly around and around flying areas.
Yeah.
So like the only one here in Brisbane is in Logan. Like there's a huge area that gets drone deliveries, but they're allowed to do that there because it doesn't have the air laws that Brisbane has.
Okay.
So Logan Council, you can get drone delivery for a lot of your produce and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I used it in 2020.
Really?
2019. It's Google based. It's a Google based drone. You can order it. Back in the day when they were using it, your first drone delivery, you got free water and free Tim Tams as part of your delivery.
Nice.
But they do up to like 10 kilos of delivery.
Did you see it deliver?
Yeah. We like used it multiple times. It's like an Uber. So it's like an Uber. So you literally select, do it. You can pick, do you want it to drop it to your backyard or your front yard?
Yeah.
And it'll come and deliver. And I would see deliveries.
You should have taken a video of that.
10 times. Awesome. I'm pretty sure I do. 10 times a week, I'd say the delivery. It's yellow. Yeah. So like, they're already in use in Australia.
But show me that afterwards. I want to see that.
But I'm surprised they're not even more present, and I think it is to do more so with regulations of airspace, because in Australia, in Brisbane, you cannot legally fly a drone. Now, there's drone footage out there for sure, but you cannot legally fly a drone up to a certain height level for all sorts of reasons, for planes, for crashing, you have to get like air approval. So I reckon that has a giant limitation to it, but maybe eventually they set some precedent where a particular path or flight level you can use drones with, and off you go.
So that, and I think that leads into also the autonomous robots. I've yet to use it, but my dad's got a car where it's got the lane control and automatic braking. You know, that's doing a lot of the work already. All of us have cruise control in our cars nowadays, apart from my old Mazda 6. Whoever bought that, shout out to you. I hope it's still going strong. Probably isn't. And I imagine one of the reasons why that's still a struggle is just because, humans interacting with them on the roads and stuff. That's one of the ones where I'm like, it feels like there's enough inbuilt things into humans where you shouldn't be going onto a road already. It's not like these cars aren't going to just suddenly swerve off to the side. I think they're pretty good at not doing that. So yeah, that's one of those ones where it seems like, man, it's a shame we don't have autonomous cars already being able to just transport us places, so that either I don't have to do it, or even better, that taxi drivers and Uber drivers don't have to be doing
I think
this
if
stuff.
we all tomorrow just decided to use some of the autonomous cars that are out there available, like every single human, I think we'll be fine. We're off. That's it. But it's like that transition point that it's going to take its time. The other one as well, I was going to call out.
Tell us about the army.
The level, and just quickly, just the level of compute or the level of GPUs being used into the various companies, and like the gigawatts of fucking energy being used in this places and what they're doing. So I didn't even realize this. So for most people at home. So right now, most of the factories that are running these GPUs, so you're thinking XAI and OpenAI and a few others, they have
the warehouses, you mean? Right?
Yeah, they have hundreds of thousands of GPUs, like 200, I think 250,000 is XAIs, and it's the biggest there is right now, verified. And that runs I think it's a gigawatt of energy, and a gigawatt of energy powers basically a city. That's city level energy powering.
Yeah, they're buying power plants, aren't
they want to go up to 700. So there's one in being built at the moment for 500,000. There's others being planned for 700,000. They might even get to 1 million GPU. Now to power those things, some of the conversations they need basically a nuclear power plant right next to this thing to power it. Yeah. Some of Elon's ones,
wouldn't that
doing
be
a natural gas plant.
Wouldn't that be amazing? That's what progresses nuclear power plants forward. Finally, we get this technology, and it's just because we can put it next to a data center that no one gives a shit about.
Yeah, that would be pretty crazy. That would be pretty it'd be interesting that would happen. But no, I think militarily. So I'll show this to Karen. It's called Wing.com. So it's a global one, but it is used here in Australia as well from a Google-backed product. I think it is. So this particular drone does deliveries to your house, basically drops off a little package. So
does it even get close to the ground, or it's always stays and it's
100 meters up in the air? So it drops the food with a little string, a little white string, drops the box super gently, and then just picks up the string and goes, Man,
that's what I'm talking about. Why don't we have more of this? Really cool. That's fucking cool.
Now, if that has existed for a few years from a drone perspective, man, I would just be I could not even fathom the level of robot drone usage in the military space. Someone was talking about that they are already using it to kill people in different countries. There was it was an interview that they were talking about, and what they were talking about was that this guy was killing people using a drone while he was sitting in the US. And so he'd be in a room the whole day, just killing people with a drone. Then he'd go home, and the level of depression was very different. So what they were trying to compare it to was, if you're in the fog of war and you're killing people in a war, it's very different because there's different emotional responses. There's different chemicals where your adrenaline's pumping. You're this is a fight to the death type of deal. I killed him. He could have killed me. Yeah. In the moment is very different. When you come home, yes, you might have that trauma that is associated with it, but there's also certain things that would happen in the moment that also kind of support you with it. He was saying that, I can't remember if it was specific to this, but it was either the depression rate or the suicide rate of remote drone operators was increasing really rapidly. Yeah. And it was because there is you basically you're almost like you're playing a game, but you're enacting this particular force on someone.
Clinical.
So anyways, in that regard, I'm for sure, there's drones out there that are killing people easily peasy. In fact, a couple of years ago, I think I remember reading that in China, they do have drones where they can go up to you, they have a gun, they can scan your face, and if that's the person they need to kill, you're dead. So that has existed for years. Okay. It would be even more crazy now. Yeah. Who knows? Who knows what level of insanity exists in that space?
I imagine China's not that dystopia that they're actually just doing that into broad daylight, middle of the day to people. Who knows? It's hope. I'm hoping that the future of that is just drone warfare, where it's just drones killing each other, and then the side that loses is all right, you've got us. You beat our drones. Let's make a peace treaty or whatever.
Well, one of the latest interviews I listened to about
human death and destruction.
What I think will ultimately become is those data centers are going to become like they better
Those
have
are the
some
targets.
they better have some royal security around them because they're going to become the most valuable thing
that's
there
the
is.
new army depots.
Yep.
You know, you destroy the data center, you don't destroy the missile center or the manufacturing center for weapons. Yeah, well, look, I'm hopeful for that. I'd certainly love to see less physical destruction of humans. You know, if we're going to blow things up, might as well blow up the robots. At least it kind of looks cool. There's none of that depression that comes afterwards until they achieve sentience, which, we'll leave that for another day.
2027.
Yeah. I kind of view all of this, like summing this up, definitely don't think there's going to be as much change as Juan anticipates. I feel like 2026 will, the things that will have an impact on your life are always going to be more personal decisions that you make. You know, have you, had a successful relationship in this way? How is your health going? All those sorts of things are much, much more important. And then, even though I suspect that there's going to be a big financial bubble, big crash, probably going to be a lot of people like losing jobs, bad financial conditions, media negativity will be off chops. And so it'll feel like everything is bad. And then you're going to have the addition of this of actual job changes. They won't be as forefront. You'll hear the stories of the individual people getting fired from companies like, I did nothing wrong. I was a loyal person. I'm making fun of them even though I shouldn't be. A loyal person for 25 years in this company. A lot of those stories will be like, yeah, you know what? No, fuck that person. I should make fun of them because a lot of those jobs are useless. Like there's so many useless jobs out there. So much. I'd love to get to the stage where I was noticing the other day, literally yesterday, chatting with a girl at the run club and she's like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm retired. I don't need to work for money. And once again, her face showed the instant but what do you do? Like, how do you have meaning in your life? And it's like, I've got plenty of meaning doing the things I love. I've got other stuff that I do. There's some things of those involve money, but they're not a job because I don't have to do it. I don't have to work for that. I'd love to get to a stage where we can kind of flip that and the job is not we just attach too much meaning to it, I think. So this unemployment, I think, could be a very good thing for a lot of people because hopefully they'll pursue some passions or get some more enjoyment out of their life. Will they? I don't know.
Yeah. Look, my summary, I've already kind of said it all, but I'll go really future dystopian view that eventually, post-2026, I'm talking like 2030, 2035, I think humanity's going to have to come to there's going to be a tough conversation as humanity to make, which is now that our AI overlords, but more so in they now do every job that we need them to do. So now economically, everything in terms of its costs is just absolutely plummeted down. So we probably have the ability for everything to be really cheap and everyone has access to everything they want. If we go down that path, then everyone just pursue what you really enjoy. If you want to be an accountant in that world, fucking do it because you enjoy it. But maybe a later topic down the road is what other things that will become really prevalent and important in the future. That's a whole different conversation.
When will having, instead of going into the STEM fields, science, technology,
when will that become don't go to that anymore, go to the arts?
Go into the arts or go into the EQ fields, whatever you want to call that, of being able to make people feel things.
That's a great path. That's the good path, the light path. What happens if a lot of this, and I'm going to call it, what if a lot of this power gets centralized to the people that have, and everyone gets quote unquote basically enslaved by their ability to do whatever they want with all of this power? Yes, everything going well would be
roll that back. I don't.
So let's say we go to the level where you've got rather than it just being an opulent, everything's available to everyone and everything's really cheap costing. What if we go down the path of a company, let's just say an Amazon's or a Meta's or any one of those ones where they just continue to charge the same amount of money or maybe a little bit less, but on ridiculous returns, these companies just power out and become $10 trillion, $50 trillion companies in terms of their value, but you're going to have this gigantic unemployment of individuals who are well, I've got nothing to do. I can't really operate in the ecosystem. and then it just comes to like, oh yeah, well, you're gonna have to just go on government subsidies or something else, and then you have this gigantic loads of people sitting just at like a low level income, and then the select few with a gigantic amount of money.
I think that's fine if the people are having better lives. So the problem with Stalin's Russia, for example, I think there was a pretty big Gini coefficient rose. So the inequality between the people who have the least and the people who have the most is very large and getting larger. The problem with that was it was very extractive. It was like,
you give me to that.
Yeah, I'm taking yours. PvP, a zero-sum game. There's only so much stuff, and this person's taking it from me. Like it's very, and that's super unhealthy, and that is 100% worse for the people at the bottom. They get the least. They struggle. The vision, I imagine, just of these productivity gains is like they're going to be so good that it's not going to be extractive in that sense. That's kind of how I view things. So sure, there might even be some trillionaire people running about, but if the average life for the average person is better, they've got better access to medicine qualities, things like that.
In the medium term, it's going to be a challenge for them, and it might eventually be better. But again, let's take a super clear example of an accountant. Sorry, I mentioned an accountant that in 2 years' time, that's it. You don't have a job.
Yeah.
And it's not like, so you say you leave a job, because you're like, hey, we don't need you anymore because AI is doing it all for you. Okay, cool. They go, I'll just go do accounting somewhere else. There isn't any. So then you can't sit in there being like, well, I don't have a job that I can go to based on my skill that I know. At that point, they basically have to then go and pivot, go and do a job elsewhere type of deal.
How does these benefits get
how do those benefits really pass down to that person? They don't. Eventually they will, many years down the track, but for a medium amount of time, they're going to have to just figure out like, okay, well, I've got to go do whatever else just to make it work.
That's the changes of humanity, and there's definitely going to be a lot of stupid government decisions.
Yeah, for sure.
In the interim period.
All right, so that's my summary in the Dawn of the Robots. In the 2026, we're going to see a lot of changes. Is it going to be as extreme from an unemployment rate that I'm thinking? Like, obviously, that's my bet on it. Maybe it'll be less. Maybe it'll be more. We've seen it before with COVID. It did go quite quickly. I think this is going to be a little bit more gradual. My call out to the mere mortals at home is it's going to be directionally correct. I'm not going to be directionally wrong. I'm telling you that right now. This is not going to be like, after this podcast, it's going to be like, you know what? There's more jobs because that's fat lie. I can tell you examples many times over of why this is not happening. It might eventually create more jobs. And I'm telling you, it will create more jobs. But humans, we're too slow. Like, you're not going to see governments just creating all these various jobs that are more upper valley level, nor are you going to be able to talk to a company like a Meta or whatever to be like, you know what? Yes, you could save $2 million here, and so you can spend $3 million on people to do all these extra things. That's a hard conversation at short term. Medium and long term, maybe. But be prepared for changes all the way to 2026.
Yeah, my dystopian future is that the distribution mechanism is the government just creates more and more jobs for people. So just more and more people working for the ATO. More and more,
100,000 people working elsewhere. Yeah.
That's
God.
I mean, like
that'd be scary.
That's a real possibility. I actually think.
Maybe could happen. All right, Immortalized, we're going to leave it there. Again, if you want to support us as a value channel, feel free to do so. Boostagram is going to be the best way, but of course, you can do so sending through some funds from a fiat perspective. PayPal. I don't know if there's any comments.
No, I didn't see any comments. Come join us live 9 a.m. on Sundays. Very much is fun to have some people to interact with. Come join us on our Discord as well. Social media links all down below if you want to interact with us there as well. And if you have any topics you want us to cover, anything you think would be fun, anything you'd like us to scratch an itch, dive deeper on, I think, please give us some suggestions. There was something you were talking about. There was an asteroid you were talking about recently.
2024 YR4, I think it's called, something like that.
Yeah.
It's gone from a 1% to a 2.4% probability of hitting in 2032. Bogota is on its path.
Yeah. And we, there's also next week, we've got some friends coming over. We could just do hook up some extra mics, do a 4-episode thing, talk about Pokemon cards and Be Friends cards if you're collectibles.
Correct, it'll be a bit more about collectibles.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll do that for next week, I reckon.
Good. We'll do that. Immortalize, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for tuning in wherever you are in the world. Be well. One out.
Gyron out. Beep.